Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Riverfront. This is the world's most dangerous podcast where we discuss the Cincinnati Reds and, not really on occasion, probably every week, Ellie De La Cruz. I am your host today, Tim Daniel. Joining me today, I brought him over from the Riverfront Youth side. You can check him out every week on Red Brick Recap with our pal Ted Brennan, covering the Miami Redhawks for us here on the Riverfront. My good pal, Jack Mueller. Jack, thanks for stepping in today, man. I'm really excited to have you on.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. It's a beautiful day. It's spring training starts today, so I'm fired up. I'm happy to talk Reds anytime that you bring me on. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, so I had to bring Jack on for multiple reasons. One, he's going to keep my bias in check since he is a North Sider. Even though Jack does work for the Riverfront, he is from Chicago, so we can give him the right to be a Cubs fan without bashing him, listeners. So I appreciate if you just don't bully him. And then also, Jack also covers a lot of fantasy baseball. So on pitcherslist.com, just recently, he has an article you can go check out talking about the top 20 dynasty prospects for fantasy baseball for the Cincinnati Reds. And should I spoil number one or should I tell people to read the article?
You can spoil number one.
Okay, it's obvious. It's Chase Burns.
Yeah, I feel like that could have gone without saying.
Yeah, and then number two is Rhett Lauder, of course. So Jack does a great deep dive, not just on those two, but the whole list. You can guess the list from on I assume, probably, just if you know a lot about the Red system and their organization. But it's a great read, something you should definitely check out. But I'm bringing Jack on today because, like I said, I need someone to keep me in check and tell me, hey, man, don't throw your money away. We don't have to do that. And so we're going to talk about the best Reds prop bets for 2025. Before we do get to that, though, speaking of FanDuel, where I got all these wagers from, news came out yesterday, Jack. FanDuel Sports Network, now a part of Amazon Prime. So for $19.99 a month, you can watch all FanDuel Sports Network teams. So for me specifically, that's great because all the teams I cover are on FanDuel, not just here in Cincinnati, but on the NBA side as well. So as we're seeing this crazy world move on with all these streaming options and things like that, another big plus for the baseball fans. We finally get a nice one out there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we talked about it a little bit off screen, but the streaming side of baseball has just been a mess for the last 2-3 years. So for that to kind of be consolidated and sorted out preseason and not in June is got to be really fun.
Yeah, especially for the Reds, because we went through a lot of we thought MLB.com was going to produce our games for a long time, and then all of a sudden a couple months ago it's FanDuel's getting it back. And honestly, I was really excited about the MLB streaming. I was really excited about the MLB productions. I thought it would be really cool for people like you and me who love sabermetrics and advanced statistics and exit velocity and things like that. Why is my camera facing? Let's do this. That's better. Okay. So yeah, I think this is a nice thing to do. I think this is gonna be really good. And I'm one of the few people in the universe that don't have Amazon Prime. So now this is gonna be just the reason I can convince my wife to let me get it for tax write-off. So
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, let's get to it because there are FanDuel's put out their lines obviously for the season. Not just the team, but individual accolades as well. And I wanted to bring you on as someone who is really knowledgeable about baseball to kind of give your thoughts on these with me. Big picture, you and I talked about a little bit off screen. We're not giving people a lot of value here because FanDuel seems to be pretty high on the Reds actually this year.
Yeah, FanDuel was very aggressive in some of their lines, not so much on the team as a whole side, but the player side. On the list you sent, some of these I'm like, whoa. For lack of a better term, that's a donation.
Yeah.
They're aggressive. I get it. I understand the hype behind some of the names, especially guys like Ellie and Hunter Green. Those guys I'm a little more comfortable taking wagers on. But I'm seeing Nick Lodolo being offered in the Cy Young.
Yeah.
Come on. Do better. That's just I get it. Nick Lodolo is a good arm, but the injury risk is always there. Even if he is healthy for a full season, does he do better than a Yoshinobu Yamamoto? Does he do better than a Spencer Strider if he's healthy? My money's on no. Again, I'd have to dive a little deeper into the projections. I know for a fact Nick Lodolo is not in that top caliber right now. But other than that, on the team side, I think the wagers are pretty fair. The win totals, especially, I think is a really fun line to look at. And the winner in the top two for the division, I think, could have some value there, depending on how the rest of the division shakes out. But yeah, first glance, there was a lot of player odds that made me shake my head a little bit, and the team when I was like, okay, I can see why that line's the way it is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get to this because, like I said, you're not me. You're not super biased about the Cincinnati Reds. My big picture looking in to this season is I feel optimistic in the sense that obviously they have a much better manager. Um, they made a late surge right before spring training to improve the roster, and I think they did a really good job bringing in guys like Austin Hayes and Tanner Rogers and guys like that. I love the Brady Singer trade. I know I talked to you about that earlier in the offseason. So I feel like realistically, this is a team that can compete for the Central based on just the managerial change and the improvements to the roster. And you're counting on health. If Matt McClain's healthy, I mean, that changes a lot for this team.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The pitching staff is a lot better than it was last year. Having Andrew Abbott back, Nick Lodolo, Nick Martinez, and Nick Lodolo, that's a 4-5. Can't ask for much more than that. That's probably one of the best 4-5s in the division, if not in that tier that the Reds are in, outside of like the Mets, Dodgers, who just spend money like it's their job. Hunter Green's still an ace. What scares me is the roster makeup. There are guys that like can go cold and aren't super consistent. Like outside of Ellie, who we know is a superstar. I was thinking about it before we hopped on. They remind me a lot of the Chicago Cubs team from last year, where it just felt like they were just one little piece away. Obviously, that is with the caveat that the Cubs did not have a guy like Ellie De La Cruz who could go single-handedly win a ball game for you.
Yeah.
But Gavin Lux, do we know what he's going to produce? Austin Hayes, he's, if you're lucky, a 240, 10 home run guy. Jaime Candelario is a hit or miss guy. Like he was with Chicago for a while. There was a stretch where I don't think he got a hit for like 15 games.
When he played the Reds, it was completely
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he went like 900.
Yeah, well, and also the bench isn't super deep, at least not as deep as I'd like it. Like Stuart Fairchild is a good hitter, but he's only going to play against left-handed pitching.
Right.
Santiago Espinal is fine, but he's probably not going to hit more than like 220. CES, kind of the same deal where like he could be really good if he's on the field consistently, but if he's getting one at bat every 4 days, then who knows? And Jose Trevino, actually, you know what? I really like Jose Trevino. I think it's about as good of a backup catcher as you can get. So I'm fine with that. But like outside of that, like it's a very good team on paper, but over an 162 game season, I question how much actual firepower they have.
I think that's fair. Obviously, for us here in Reds Land, we're fully drinking the Tito Kool-Aid, and we are giving a lot of benefit for extra wins with having him on staff. And I think he did a great job keeping Derek Johnson in, and as well filling out the rest of his staff, bringing his guys in. I think Chris Valakis could be a nice addition. Having Mike Napoli, even if it's not like something that improves the team, is just going to be super fun having him in the clubhouse.
I'm going to miss Mike Napoli, man. He was with the Cubbies for a while. He was so much fun to be around.
Yeah, we've already been talking about Party at Napoli is coming here. So we're, obviously looking forward to it. But yeah, I think your thoughts are fair. I don't think there's anyone that would really object to that, especially in our group here who kind of follows the Reds daily. So let's get to it, man. Let's kind of do this because this could end up being a really quick episode. I really have no idea. But let's go ahead and let's talk about a couple of the ones. Let's go team related to start, obviously. So to make the playoffs, these are all those lines are brought for FanDuel, and for those who aren't really highly involved in this side of the world, we'll also list off how the math works to how you win your money. So we'll start there. Make the playoffs plus 250, $10, you win $25. Win the NL Central plus 490, bet 10, win 49 if it goes through. National League winner plus 3,300, you bet 10, you win 330. World Series plus 7,000, bet 10, win 700. And so on those, I think my favorite one is not going to be one of those ones that wins you big money, obviously. I think I'm leaning NL Central. And why I lean NL Central as my favorite of the group, not saying they will win the Central, though I do think they certainly could. I think if you look at the division as a whole this offseason, I mean, the Pirates did nothing, realistically. Yep. The Cardinals kind of more got rid of guys and brought guys in, losing guys like Goldschmidt, obviously. And obviously, your guys, the Cubbies, did some great work as well. I think realistically, if you look at rosters, I think it's between the Reds and the Cubs for the Central. And so I could kind of see it being a coin flip. I think the Cubs are better for sure. But I do think, no offense, the Reds have a better manager to put games together.
I don't necessarily disagree. Obviously, Francona is the cream of the crop. He is the best, one of the best managers we ever had. I think that's a little. I don't think Craig Counsell is too far behind him. I think
No.
in that same tier is a really good game manager. He won a lot of games for us that we really should have lost last year. He kept us in that playoff hunt with a roster that probably shouldn't have even been close to competing. But in the Central, I'm looking at Fangraphs' projections right now. The Cubs are projected to have 84 wins. The Brewers are projected to have 81. The Reds are projected to have 78, with the Pirates right there at 78 as well. That's an aggressive line for the Pirates. I think they break 70 wins. They're not good. That outside of that pitching staff, that lineup probably will put up 2 runs a game. But you can't put away the Brewers. The Brewers are just always going to find a way to be good. We say it every year. The Brewers did nothing. They're not going to be good, and they somehow win 87 games.
They're the Pacers.
It happens every year. I'm refusing to count them out this year. Even if they're 10 games under the break, they're going to find a way to sneak in. The Cubs, again, it's one of those things where, like, if everything works, it could be really good. If the rotation falls apart, because we have guys in the back end of that rotation that aren't going to be great, then it's a whole different story. I think at that point, if you're taking on value, I'd rather take the Central winner over the make the playoff bet at almost 5-1 as opposed to 2-1 or 2.5-1, just because I think that's the Reds' only path to making the playoffs, just because with how good the NL is going to be this year.
Yeah,
like even if winning the division gets them in 100%, they can finish with 87 wins and finish second and probably not make the playoffs, because the Mets are going to be good, the Braves are going to be good, the Phillies are all going to be good, the Diamondbacks are going to be good. And that the Diamondbacks are in the division with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And the Braves, Phillies, who was the last one I said? Braves, Phillies, Mets. 2 of those teams, or one of those teams, isn't going to make it.
Yeah.
So do the Reds have enough firepower to compete with those guys in a wild card race? My gut says no. So out of those, I think you're right that the Central bet makes the most sense. But then, even then, that is a large line to put money on.
Yeah, I agree. So win total over under 79.5. I think that's going to be a pretty good over. I could really see this Reds team going 84, 86 wins, just because the pitching staff is going to be that good, like you mentioned earlier, especially if Nick Lodolo does stay healthy, and they do have him as that 4-5. So I took the over. I'm pretty confident in the over. It's just the rest of the stuff that really has me wondering what the key is and how they can get through it.
It really depends on how they play in the division. That's what it boils down to. If they can pick up wins they have to get against the Cardinals, who didn't do anything, and against the Pirates, who are frankly a dumpster fire right now, then yeah, you're right on track for 79 wins. If you start dropping series to those teams and you start dropping sweeps, that opens you up to 77 wins, 76, that ballpark, which is what frankly my team has done the last couple of years, where we've lost series to like the Rockies, or like, who else am I missing? Like the Marlins. We got swept against the Marlins at home this year. Like, that stuff that can't happen if you want to compete. So if the Reds can clean that stuff up, I think 79.5 is a very fair line, and I would definitely agree that the over is the way to go with that. But it's a 162 game season. It's hard to predict in February what this team's going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of the route we go there. So National League MVP. Let's get to awards and see how the Reds stare on there. Yeah. So 2 guys are listed on the ballot. Elly De La Cruz plus 2,000 odds. You bet $10, you win 200 if he does in fact win it. Matt McLain plus 12,000 odds. You bet $10, and if he does win it, you win $1,200 and got to fill out a 1099. So Jack, obviously we all love Elly De La Cruz. We're all very high on his season. I could see him being a guy who gets MVP votes, but you just basically laid out what it's going to take for this team to win. And I think it's going to take that on top of another great Elly season for him to win National League MVP. As far as Matt McLain goes, I'm very excited he's back. He really was the best player of the 2023 team when they made that run in the summer, and almost had them in the playoffs. But I just have a hard time when there's guys like Juan Soto, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and you're in the Ronald Acuna if he bounces back from his injury. Would I love to say Elly De La Cruz is going to be the MVP? Yes. I just don't know how he's going to do it when like you said, the National League is so stacked.
he would have to put up a Shohei Ohtani 50-50 type season or a Ronald Acuna 40-70 type season. That is the only path to doing it. And that's really hard when you strike out almost 30% of the time. So do I think there's a path for him to win MVP? I absolutely do. He'd probably have to cut out the strikeouts by at least 8%, hit 20 more home runs and steal 15, 20 more bases. All of those things are possible. It's really hard to do that in one season. But it's not unheard of.
Guys by his talent, yeah.
With guys like his talent, like Elly De La Cruz is a generational type talent if he can put the ball in play. But the 30%, like FanGraphs, I'm looking at the FanGraphs projections. They have him at like 29.8% strikeouts this year. Ew, that's not going to be good enough to win you the MVP.
Yeah.
So is there a path for him to win MVP? Absolutely. He has to, but as you said, like Juan Soto's in the division now. Shohei's still around. Mookie Betts is still around. There's a lot of talent in this division. Fernando Tatis is still around. Like, this is a deep division. I mean, guys like Jackson Merrill could take the next step next year. Corbin Carroll's still in the division. Freddie Freeman's still in this division. Like, there are probably half a dozen names realistically could win MVP and probably another 6 dark horses. I think Ellie's in that first 6, but he has all of the tools to win MVP. He just needs to put all of them together for a full 162 games.
Yeah, and I think he's certainly capable of it. And I think at some point, maybe if it's not this year, I think he will do that. But yeah, I mean, I am very high on him. I do think he's going to be an all-star again. Matt McLain's side, it's going to take a lot. Yeah.
Like, it's, again, he would have to break out in a way that few players have ever broken out before. Yeah. At those odds, that's a donation to FanDuel. Ellie, that's a long shot, but that's doable. So I'd be more comfortable taking that line. I'm not going to. I do think it's going to be either Soto or Shohei. That's just, I don't see how anyone else comes close.
Yeah, market obviously plays a part in that as well, you know, being that they're New York and Los Angeles. So I feel you on that.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and finish your say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like, the New York, LA stuff helps. I was going to say that for Rookie of the Year stuff too. Like, there's so many good rookies coming in this year, like especially that one in LA.
Yeah, that's true.
So the market gets diluted when it's a big market player.
Yeah, it does. All right, NL Cy Young. So we have Hunter Green at plus 2,000 odds, bet 10, win 200. Nick Lodolo plus 9,000 odds, bet 10, win 900. Andrew Abbott plus 20,000, bet 10, win 2,000. Okay, I'm going to say this. You're going to disagree with me. I think Hunter Green, if he puts on a full season, if he's on the mound every time it's his turn, every 5th day, has a shot to win National League Cy Young. He was really, really good in the summer last year before he got injured. Got himself into the All-Star game. When he came back from his injury, was also really good again, but had shorter starts, obviously, just because they were out of the contention and they were kind of getting him some extra innings and getting towards his little contract instead of bonuses he had. But what we saw for him last year, when he was at his peak in the season last year, the only National League pitcher that was really better than him for those stretches was Chris Sale. So he was getting strikeouts. He was getting ground ball outs. He wasn't giving up as many homers. And there's no way you can tell me he's not going to get better as he matures. And I think that now him and Tyler Stevenson have a nice battery. They've really kind of learned how to work together as far as a pitcher-catcher duo, where he was leaning a lot on guys like Luke Maile the past couple of years. So do I think he's going to do it? Probably not, because like you said, there's a lot of really good pitchers in the National League. But kind of like we talked about Elly, I certainly think there is a way he can win it.
You're absolutely right. There's a path, but Paul Skeens is back, and he's going to have a full season under his belt now.
You think he's any good?
I take back what I said a year ago. That was an all-time bad take. But yeah, I like Paul Skeens proved me wrong and a lot of people wrong. He shoved last year. He's going to be, he's going to be a Cy Young candidate. Zach Wheeler's still in Philadelphia. He can still put up 200 plus strikeouts this year. Chris Sale probably won't get back to that level just because he's getting it's Chris Sale, so who knows? But like,
right, yeah.
So I could be wrong, but I don't see him getting back to that level. I hate to say it, but like the trio in LA, like you still got rookie Sasaki, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. God, if Shohei Ohtani comes back to the mound, then you add Blake Snell into the mix. Like those are 4 guys that could also compete. Like there's
fair.
There's probably 20 pitchers that could compete. So yes, like Hunter Green has the talent and looked really good last year. He has to do that and then cut his ERA by 0.5 and win 17 games and strike out 200 plus batters. That's a lot for a guy that only a year ago had a losing record and has been injured, twice now in his career. So you're asking him to probably put together 32 starts, have an ERA around 2.5, and strike out at least 12 batters per game or per 9 innings. That's a lot. So if he can do that, I can see him making that run. If not, it's going to be a lot more challenging.
As you can tell, I'm very high on Hunter Green this year.
I'm also really high on him. But
you're right. It's asking a lot. Especially he was just on Jim Day's podcast, and I was listening to the conversation. And one of the points he really made that made a lot of sense is that he said, like, look, he's like, I'm always going to have high pitch counts because of the way I pitch. He's like, people always get contact and give foul tips on me. I always get a lot of strikeouts. He's like, it's just the way it's going to be. He's like, would I love to cut my pitch count down? Yeah, absolutely. He's like, is it likely? He's like, I kind of doubt it. Paraphrasing what he said there, but what he said there kind of makes a lot of sense in towards this conversation we're having right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pull it up right now. But I mean, when you throw as hard as Hunter Green does, if he gets squared up, the ball goes a long way.
As we've seen.
Like his savant numbers are awesome. Like 96 percentile and expected batting average, 96 in fastball velo, 87th in barrel rate, 92nd in hard hit rate. Great numbers. But there is one number that sticks out here that is just, it's the only blue number in a sea of red numbers. Ground ball rate. He only gets 35% ground balls. If his fastball gets hit hard, it's likely going a long way and it's going to be hit a ton. So yes, I do think there's a path, but he does get into deep pitch counts. He doesn't get to the 7th, 8th inning very often. And he gives up a lot, not a lot of hard contact, but when he does give up hard contact, it's damaging hard contact. Yeah. So those are the little things that I'd like to see improve. But again, he's in year 4? Like he's 25? Like there is chances for him to do that. I'm not sure it's going to be this year with just how deep the pitching in the NL is, but I could definitely see a path for that happening next year, even 2 years down the line.
Yeah. Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott, same thing.
Just don't. It's a donation.
Yeah. I do think Nick Lodolo is going to have a really good year. I do think he's going to bounce back this year, but I'm with you. Andrew Abbott, some people don't even have making the major league roster. And that kind of
shocks crazy
me.
To me.
Yeah, because he's been really consistent. He's been really good his 2 years in the big leagues.
He also just has a higher ceiling than like anyone in that rotation. Like, yeah, sure, he's been injured. Sure, he hasn't pitched a ton, but like, who are you going to go with outside of him? Carson Spires?
Right.
Connor
exactly.
Phillips?
Yeah.
Ryan Richardson? Like,
oof.
I'd rather have Andrew Abbott up there. And I feel like I'm not the only one. The only name I would like to see get consistent time up there would be Rhett Lauder. But I think that'll happen naturally. I don't think you have to take what's his name? Oh my God, I'm blanking now. Abbott out of the rotation for that to happen. So I agree that like there's a path that the Reds don't put him on the major league roster, but I would be shocked if they don't.
Yeah, I'm with you. You mentioned him, Rhett Lauder, National League Rookie of the Year, plus 3,000 odds, bet $10, win 300. I will tell you what, man. If there was not a Rosuke Sasaki, I would love this bet. I would absolutely take this bet because what we saw from Rhett Lauder at the end of last year when he came up for his few starts with the big league team was awesome. You go into really deep detail in your article I mentioned at the top of the website at the top of the episode about why Rhett Lauder is as good as he is. You joked about your take last year about Paul Skeens and Rhett Lauder earlier in the show, which, hey man, I felt the same way you did, so don't feel bad. There's so much I love about Rhett Lauder, and I understand now that he's going to have to work with finding ways out. There's film on him from his 5 or 6 starts last year to get better, and I think he will. I certainly think he's that talented. But for him to win Rookie of the Year, one, it's not even a guarantee he's going to make the big league roster come opening day and be in the rotation every 5th day just because of how deep it is. I would love for him to, because I do like him much more than I like some of the other guys who are there. And obviously Nick Martinez can be a guy in the bullpen and start where that opens that door for him as well. But 2, Roski Sasaki is in the National League, so that makes it a little harder. But I don't hate the value. I think it's a good value if he can, that I would be willing to take a chance on if he's just really good. But the people he's going against are the only reason I'm kind of backing away.
It's not just rookie too. Like, he's the 9th highest odds in this class. I mean, you've got Dylan Cruz, who's got rookie eligibility. Matt Shaw for the Cubs might get the opening day third base job, so he has a full season behind him. Jordan Lawler, Hae-Sung Kim is also with the Dodgers now. Like, there are names that probably have more of a run in the major leagues that Loader does as of right now, just because of how deep that Reds pitching staff is. They don't need to give Loader 20, 25 starts this year. Would I like to see them do that? Yes, I love Rhett Loader. I would love to see him get the ball every 5th day. But the way this roster is constructed, I don't see that happening right now, which definitely lowers his chances. And on the other side, in the division, you have a guy like Bubba Chandler with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's rotation out of Skeens and Jones isn't very good as far as I remember. As far as I can tell, it's like pretty much Skeens and Jones and a bunch of like, okay, like I guess they have to pitch today. Mitch Keller's in there too, so I take it back. I do like Mitch Keller. But if Bubba Chandler gets called up in May and he gets 20 starts, then he puts himself right in the midst of that conversation. So I do think there's again, like I keep saying it, like there is a world I can see Loader getting into that mix, but 1, he has to get into the rotation probably by the end of May. And 2, he has to perform incredibly well off the rip. I'm thinking like Paul Skeens level good last year. Like there are no blow up starts in rookie of the year campaigns. You can't have it. So you have to be good every single time you get the ball. Otherwise you're out of the voting, because you're going against guys that play every day, who perform every day, in guys like Matt Shaw, in guys like Kim, and guys like Thomas Agassi in St. Louis. I mean, there's also Luis Angel Acuna with the Mets, who was on the playoff roster last year and performed really well on that playoff roster.
Yeah, he did.
So, like, again, I would be a lot more comfortable taking this bet if there wasn't such a high level of talent coming back in the rookie of the year class this year.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there. Like we said, still super high on him, still really believe in him, but just a really deep rookie class. I still might take it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm still kind of
look, the value's there. I get it. Like at 10 to win 300, that's not terrible value. And it's close enough where it like makes me think like, okay, this isn't like a super long shot. Like there are people like looking at this and going, okay, that seems like a logical bet.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still really high on Dylan Cruz. I'm still really high. Like I think Roki Sasaki could be in the Cy Young conversation this year if he stays healthy. It's a big if though. Like he's had some like shoulder trouble, I think, and some elbow trouble in the past. I wrote about it on Pitcher List like a month ago. If anyone wants to go check that out, but it's my gut tells me to not take it just because of how many good rookies there are. But Rhett Loader is good enough where like if he gets a sustained run in the majors, he could do it.
Yeah. Do you think Chase Burns gets a major league start this year?
I really, really want to say no, but I also really, really know how injured most of that staff can be. So it really depends on the injury situation of the major league staff. Because if most of the staff stays healthy for most of the year, there's no reason to call them up.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no reason to let him get a full year of professional baseball under his belt and then get him ready for 2026. But if you get to August, September, and you're in a playoff push and you don't want to give the ball to a guy I just mentioned, like Carson Spires or Lyon Richardson in a must-win game, Chase Burns has electric stuff. He can go get you 6 good innings on a given day. So ask me that question again in May, and I'll probably have a different answer. But for now, I my gut wants to go no.
If he gets to AAA, will you come back down and we'll go to a game?
That I can do.
Okay.
That I can make happen.
Awesome. Perfect. National League Rookie of the Year, Alexis Diaz, 8th best odds at plus 1,700. So first glance, yeah, it's good value. Here's who's ahead of him.
Yeah.
Edwin Diaz, his own brother, the Mets, is a favorite at plus 350. Ryan Helsley in St. Louis, plus 400. Former Red Raisel Iglesias, plus 450. Robert Suarez, plus 600. Tanner Scott, plus 600. Ryan Walker, plus 1,200. Kirby Yates, plus 1,500. There is a devil's advocate here for sure, Jack, because I have been on record to say I think he's going to have a bounce back year, even though I completely hate the closer position. I think it's really stupid. I've gotten into that many of times. I definitely think that what we saw from him in August and September is the Alexis Diaz we'll remember as an all-star. I know that, being a reliever is so fickle. Anything can happen. Big picture, great value. $170 you can win if he's really good like he was his all-star year. But way too many good players ahead of him.
He's never had a save in his career.
He's a closer.
According to FanGraphs, he doesn't have a save. I'm not sure if that's right or not.
That's not right, but
okay. I was about to say that can't be right, but the caveat there is one of those Dodgers guys is not going to be in the mix because either Tanner Scott or Kirby Yates is going to close games, not both.
Yeah.
If both close games, that lowers their value. Edwin Diaz, we know the injury risk there. Raisel Iglesias, I'm pretty sure has had some injuries before. Ryan Helsley, are the Cardinals going to be in a lot of save positions this year?
I'm not very high on them, no.
I don't think so. Again, I see the value. He's got electric stuff, like 104 mile an hour fastball with a wipeout slider. I see it there, but
yeah,
if the Cardinals are losing 70 games or losing 90 games, I don't see how you can really say like, oh, this guy was a great high leverage reliever. They weren't in a ton of high leverage games. So how can you really make that argument? They're like, again, like I love the Tanner Scott odds. I love the Raisel Iglesias odds because those teams are going to be in a playoff hunt and are going to have to fight through some tough games. And those games have the most eyeballs on them.
Yeah.
So I think those are more likely. But as we keep talking about, if the Reds are in that 80 win, or sorry, excuse me, like 2-3 games back in that last stretch of the season, and Alexis Diaz is called upon to make those saves, a lot of eyes go on him. And there's a chance, there's an underdog shout there. I do see it. Does he have the ceiling that guys like Tanner Scott do, the guys like Edwin Diaz do? No. But if he can go get you 40 saves this year, then yeah, he's right in the mix. He could finish top 3 or 4 for sure.
This is the part about this that I hate, is that a lot of it is going to depend on his fellow bullpen mates if they keep the games close for him. Like I said, I think the Reds did a really good job improving that, and they're getting guys back healthy this year. It looks like there's a strong possibility Graham Ashcraft's going to be in the bullpen, which I'm like back and forth on. But guys like Brent Suter, who was really good last year, guys like bringing in Scott, like we talked about. I think that, they're going to keep him in this situation where if they are winning games, like you said, he's certainly going to have a way to get involved in the conversation. So I'm really excited to see how this pans out. I just think right now, it's hard for me to say yes, just because of the guys above him. And like you said, like Raisel Iglesias, who, yeah, he's had injuries and yeah, he's had some bad outings for sure, especially in Cincinnati, but has been pretty consistent this time with Atlanta.
Yeah. Like I'm also looking at the Reds bullpen right now, and like there are guys here who could siphon saves. And that's another issue that we've had in the past when doing projections for closers is Taylor Rogers has closed games before. Emilio Pagan's closed games before. I'm pretty sure Brett Suter's closed games before. So like if you have those stretches where you have like 7 games in 9 days, Diaz is not going to get the ball in save situations all 9 of those or all 7 of those games just because of the workload that it will put on his arm and the injury history that he has. So it's really, I guess, as you said, it's dependent on how the bullpen looks. But right now, like looking at this bullpen, like Diaz is going to get probably 70% of the save opportunities. If he converts 80% of those, he's right in the mix.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so that's kind of the all individual ones for awards. These are just a couple stat ones I wanted to go through. And obviously we're going to start with Ellie again. So these are fun ones, and I'm really excited about them because it just kind of tells you what the world thinks of Ellie De La Cruz, ourselves included. All right, so Ellie wages this year, MLB home run leader, plus 7,500. Bet $10, win 750. His over-under this year, 23.5 home runs. Overs minus 104, bet $10, win additional 962. Under minus 122, bet $10, win 820. Don't even bother with the under. Still a base under. He's literally at the point, he's the only player in baseball, Jack, that you don't gain a profit on if you bet him to win stolen bases.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Stolen base leader minus 130, bet $10, win 769. His over under is 53.5. Over minus 120, bet $10, win 833. Under minus 106, bet $10, win 943. Again, don't even bother with the under if he's healthy this year, fully healthy and plays the whole season, which we suspect he will. To record 60 stolen bases plus 158, $10 wins you an additional 1580. So, all right. There's a lot to be excited about for the Elly De La Cruz that we talked about to start the episode with the MVP conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think these are all really fun bets. And like you kind of said, is there a pathway that he leads the National League in home runs, especially in that stadium as a switch hitter? Yes, for sure. If he cuts down his strikeouts.
I don't agree. I don't see a world where Elly wins the home run title. That's me. Just because they play 81 games in other ballparks, and you're in a division or you're in a league that still has Aaron Judge, still has I think Juan Soto gets 40 this year.
That's true.
You're basically asking Elly De La Cruz to hit close to 60 home runs next year to win that title.
That's fair. Like I said, this is why I had to bring you on to kind of keep me honest, keep me in check.
Like 42 home runs is going to get you close.
That's true. That's true.
That's going to put you almost 20 off the pace, especially if Judge keeps hitting home runs at the clip that he does. I'll go back to the projections here in a second, but like
you convinced me. But
like the leader in home runs next year is projected to hit 46, and that's Aaron Judge. And I think that's a low end for Aaron Judge. Interestingly, Brett Rooker is projected to hit 37, which is good enough for third. Don't know if I trust that. Shohei Ohtani is projected to hit 45. So you're asking Elly to hit 50 home runs, which I don't think he's ever done in like his minor league. I don't think he did it in his minor league career, much less his like one stint. What's his career high? His career high is 28 in the minor leagues in 2022, and then 25 with the Reds last year. You're asking him to basically double his home run tally.
You convinced me. You're probably right.
Yeah.
That's my optimism.
The over-under, I think, is a lock. I think he goes way over. I don't know why the under is shorter odds than the over. That seems like a donation to me, or that seems like a lock. I don't see how, unless there's an injury, unless he like has a major drop off in power, which both would be worst case scenarios. The over should hit, no questions asked.
Yeah. So I'm with you. Over stolen bases, I think too. The record 60 doesn't seem like a bad bet to me. It's not a ton of money you're making. Basically just cashing out to $25.80 if you bet the $10. But 60 stolen bases for Elly De La Cruz, that doesn't seem far fetched.
It doesn't, as long as he cuts the strikeout rate. If he boosts his on base percentage to like 370, which again that is a 30 point jump. If he gets to that, then it gives him, I don't know, an extra 30 to 40 stolen base attempts, maybe another 30 to 40 tries at stealing a base. In that case, yeah, I 100%, because I could see him getting 70.
I could too.
If he boosts that OBP by like 10, 15 points, because he had 67 last year with a 32% strikeout rate and an on-base percentage of 34%. He was stealing every time he got on the bag.
Yeah.
So
sometimes twice.
If he continues to do that, last year he made a 40-point improvement in his on-base percentage and dropped his strikeout rate by 2 points. You do that again this year, you could go to 70 or 80. Because he doubled his stolen base tally between last season. Granted, he had almost 60 extra games to do it, but I could see him adding another 10, 15 this year. I don't see why not. Yeah. So I think even I would go as high as to put money on 70. Yeah. But I think 60 is a really fair line. I don't see a world where he doesn't at least play with that number, or he doesn't at least, get close to that number. But I think I would even take that all the way up to 70.
Yeah, I think that's rational. I definitely do. All right, and then lastly, we'll end with Hunter Green. Over under for strikeouts 160.5. Both over and under at minus 113. Bet $10, one additional 885. To be the strikeout leader, plus 2,500. Bet $10, win 250. This goes back to the conversation we just had about Elly. Talent level, yeah, 1,000% there, but can you trust him to be on the mound for 6 2/3, at least 3 times a month? Can you trust him to consistently get strikeouts and not give up hard contact, like we talked about earlier in the episode? Talent-wise, 1,000%, you could say yeah, he could definitely do it. I think he's gonna be managed much better in games, obviously. So I think that's a possibility. But He has not shown the ability to complete a full season yet, so it's hard for me to say yes on that for if I'm going to put money down on it. But don't hate it. Don't hate the value.
No, I don't either. Last year he pitched 150 innings. So Zips is like the Fangraphs. They have it on their like projections. They're projecting he gets 154 this year and strikes out 172. That's a very fair number to me. I could definitely see that. Even if he only goes 5 a game and he gets 7 per game, that gets him close to that number. My gut's telling me to take the over just because, like, if he does put together a full season, he should have that by early September.
Yeah,
especially if they're in a playoff hunt. But again, like you said, like the injury risk is there. He hasn't pitched a full season. I don't know what that durability looks like. Obviously, they have a little bit more cover in innings with guys like, Singer coming in. You got guys like Aguilar, who's coming back from the IR. I actually don't know if he's going to pitch this year. I think he got hurt. Rhett Loader in the minors. You got guys like Carson Spires in the minors, Lyon Richardson in the minors if you need a spot start. So they have more cover this year than they've had in years past. So you don't have to force him deep into games, and you can just rely on the stuff he has to get you through however many innings he can get you. Yeah, I think over under. I think I would take the over here for the strikeout leader at 10 to win 250. I don't hate it just because every name I talked about in the NL has injury risk. Like Roki Sasaki has reports of injuries coming out. Shohei Ohtani has injuries. Yamamoto missed time last year. Blake Snell's missed time with injury. Chris Sale's missed time. The list goes on and on. If one or two of those guys misses a month, I didn't even mention Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider had an injury last year.
Yeah, Tommy John. Yeah.
So, like, if you have, he needs a little bit of luck, but if he can put together a full season and like some of the other guys don't have the durability that they've had in years past and don't get to that 200 inning threshold, yeah, I see it. Again, like you're asking a lot to go right and the same amount of things could go wrong, and he could end up with like 90 strikeouts. But there's a pathway to him winning the strikeout crown 100%. Over under, to me, that's an easy lock on the over, assuming everything goes right.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's all the bets we had. Just real quick, we had a couple comments. I want to make sure I got from the Patreon group. Our good friend Sydney Price, who's part of our video game club. Ellie over 60 stolen bases is free money if he stays healthy. Same with over 23.5 homers. The only thing stopping him from MVP is Ohtani. I love the optimism, but we already listed all the people who could potentially win MVP. I'm all for Ellie De La Cruz MVP for sure. And look, when Joey Votto won it, no one really picked him to win it either. So anything's possible.
I would 100% agree if Juan Soto was not in the National League.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But like Juan Soto being with the Mets on a team with Frankie Lindor just means he's going to get a ton of opportunities for RBIs, a ton of opportunities for home runs, and a ton of pitchers that are – it depends on how – actually, you know what? It depends on how they do their lineup, because if Soto's in front of Lindor, suddenly Soto's OBP skyrockets because everyone's so scared of him getting on base against Lindor.
Yeah.
Vice versa. So it depends on how they build their lineup, but I think even Lindor and Soto put themselves right in the thick of that conversation.
Yeah, I do too. And then Joey Gaditza, our good friend from north of the border. The win total over 75.5 seems like a slam dunk to me, providing health, of course. We talked about that. I think we both agree. This is probably a team that can definitely put that together if everyone's on the field consistently. Dude, this was fun. Thank you for filling in today. I really appreciate it. We got a Red Brick recap coming up today.
Yes, we do.
It's going to be on the.
We're recording in about 2 hours here, and it'll be up live tomorrow.
What's the topic this week besides obviously the end of the basketball team slumped a little bit the last week?
Basketball team slumping. New basketball arena site has been announced. That is going to be the topic of most of our discussion today. Baseball's off to a hot start. Softball kind of struggling a little bit compared to last season, but that's what you can expect with a new coach and a lot of new faces. So come hear all about it on Red Brick Recap. We'll post it live tomorrow. It'll be on my Twitter. It'll be on Ted Brennan's Twitter. And I'm sure we'll post it on the Riverfront U page. We
absolutely will, man. Well, thanks again, man. Thanks for filling in. I appreciate it. Also, check Jack's work out. Talk about the articles or the websites where people can find you.
Yeah, so I am a fantasy baseball dynasty writer, so I cover a lot of prospects and like future stars, college stuff over on pitcherlist.com. That can also be found on my Twitter, which is in my handle here. I post everything on there. I'm also on Blue Sky, so come find me on there. Other than that, yeah, I'm really happy to come on board and talk Reds. I'm always happy to talk baseball. So anytime you want to talk the Reds or the NL Central or just baseball in general, please please have me on. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna get some Dynasty games in against each other this year.
That depends if I buy the game. I was a little disappointed with 24, so we'll see.
I have to get a physical copy this year. I have to, as a Reds fan.
Now that they've added high school and college, I might, just to try out Road to the Show. But I've been suckered into Diamond Dynasty for the last 2 years. The last 2 years, I've been out of the game by like July.
I feel you. I did the same thing. Perfect. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for hanging out as always. Shout out to our friends over at riverfront.com, the Patreon as well. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this week's edition of the Riverfront Red Show. I will be back on Sunday with Ben for Late Night Reds. I know we took last week off because I wasn't feeling very well, but we will be back in the swing of things doing our second baseman preview. So shout out to Adam Dunn. Shouts to Lee Salverto, Wayne Krinchicki, and Eli Cash. For Jack Mueller and for Michael Tucker, this is Tim Daniel saying so long, Cincinnati.